Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk HP Lovecraft. If you've not yet subscribed to our channel, please take a moment to do that now. Alright, so we have come down to the final story in this phase of Let's Talk HP Lovecraft. We've been at it since Halloween after having taken a break of several years, but I'm sort of happy to be coming to the close of this part of the show, having worked through these two volumes, which basically leaves us with only 4 more Lovecraft stories that I've not reviewed as far as I can tell, but they are not available in the collections that I own. So one day I will come back and look at those. But first we have to get through today's business, which is The Night Ocean from 1936, written by Lovecraft and his frequent collaborator R.H. Barlow, who in these years was merely a teenager. It was published for the first time in the Californian. Again, that was in 1936. You know how this works by now. I give a brief synopsis of what happens in the story and then sort of wrap up with my thoughts and feelings about what it all means. Is it worth your time? Where does it fit into the Lovecraft pantheon? So, after wholly devoting himself to the completion of a large painted mural for a contest, an artist seeks solitude, and so he goes to the coast. He rents a little secluded cottage to be alone on the beach. It's the end of summer. All the tourists are going away. There's a nearby town, but it's pretty empty, and he's looking forward to this. Along the way, he sort of contemplates how art and dreaming sort of have this similarity where it's hard to capture what you experience in your mind, and it's always sort of at the edge of your grasp, and you can't quite ever bring it to full fruition together, but perhaps he was able to do that with his most recent painting. In the ensuing months, he has a growing sense of dread of the ocean, especially at nighttime. In the beginning, he swims during the day, takes long walks on the beach, but he finds things, a weird piece of jewelry with a strange design on it, sort of reminiscent of Lovecraft's work in The Shadow over Innsmouth. He finds a bit of flesh on the beach that may be a human hand, but he can't tell. He notices in one of the local papers that there's been an unusual number of drownings by strong swimmers in the area. And the one cliff that he frequents brings to mind a memory from a childhood story he had heard about an underwater kingdom and a king, and a bit of mythology, I would say. And then, most alarmingly, he seems to see strange swimmers in the surf at nighttime. He has a feeling that it's all building up towards something, some ultimate revelation of dread to explain his fears. But just then, he gets a letter from home informing him that he has won the painting contest, and so he plans to leave in a few days. On that final night, he does see a swimmer out by the reef, and he appears to be carrying something, but he has this overwhelming sense of dread, so he shuts the windows and the shutters, and he dare not look at it, and so he never learns anything more about it. But as the story comes to an end, in his writings, which is what this whole thing has been, he sort of contemplates the immortality of the seas and how it's this item of dread, and how it's very unsettling that such a thing could go on and on and on, this endless roar of the ocean, despite the fact that one day all of us will be gone. This is a great, excellent way to end this collection. It is one of the best, most sort of artistically written stories that I've ever seen Lovecraft's name on. And that's to say, not to say that his other work isn't art, but this is a story that would be at home in any sort of anthology that you read from in high school or college, perhaps. It's not merely genre fiction. It's a work of art that transcends any genre. There are hints of genre, there are hints of the supernatural and the weird, but like the best horror, it's only the hints, and you never quite see what is so frightening, and it's the unseen that creates the fear, and it's very much in that sort of ilk, the less is more mentality. But along the way, it's all beautifully written, very poetically almost, very slightly stream of consciousness, and has a very sort of rhythmic, like the ocean, vibe to the whole thing that I quite liked. But I think it's about several things. It's about depression and the arts, and how, you know, artists and artistic minds, creative minds, whether you're an artist or not, are susceptible to depression, and this feeling that you're trying to capture something, or there's a fear of something that's out there, but it's quite just elusive, beyond your ability to touch and to make contact and to understand, or to turn it into art and to put it on the page in some sort of visual format to explain it to other people. And that's sort of what the quest of the artist really is, I think. At least an artist who's thinking deeply about their craft, as opposed to just sort of, you know, throwing shit on the wall. So it's about that. It's also about solitude, and here's a character who thought he wanted to be alone, but ultimately discovers that the solitude is, in a sense, more horrifying than whatever experiences he was going through, that, you know, caused him to want to seek that solitude away from that sort of fear of self that comes from thinking too deeply about your art. I'm reminded of a number of things when reading this story. I'm reminded of, there's a doom metal band called Ahab, which all of its material basically is about sort of fear of the ocean. Sometimes they're adapting Melville, Moby Dick, things like that. But it very much reminds me of that, sort of this dark, deep, guttural, doomy vibe, and sort of evoking the dread of the ocean. And I think it's worth you looking into, whether you're a metal fan or not. It's very, very interesting music. And I mentioned Melville. I'm reminded of Melville a bit here as well, and then also Ernest Hemingway in a sense too. The Old Man and the Sea, of course, Melville with Moby Dick, but also just whether the ocean was there or not, sort of the sparseness of the language, and sort of the building emotions that they managed to create with only so many words. But in the end, this story, I think, encapsulates everything Lovecraft is about, his cosmic horror, the sense of dread, but it does it without all the usual trappings of Lovecraft. There's no tentacles, there's no aliens, there's very little of anything, actually. Just hints of things to fear, mysteries to solve that are never solved, and it's beautifully written. Highly recommended. Perhaps the best story in this collection. And so, if you're going to read anything from Medusa's Coil and others, be sure to read The Night Ocean that he wrote with R.H. Barlow. All right, so that is it. You may be wondering, what is next? H.P. Lovecraft, or rather, Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft, is going back on the back burner for a while. I will return to it, I promise, someday. As best as I can decipher, there are at least 4 more Lovecraft stories out there that could not be found in these 2 volumes or the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft, which is a huge book, which is on the shelf over there. So one day I will track those down in paper form. They're available online, but I want the paper, and I will do those. There is also his volume of poetry, The Ancient Tract, which I've been threatening to do something with for a number of years now. I'll get to it eventually. I just don't quite know how I want to tackle it. I don't think I can do it poem by poem, because there's a lot of incomplete poems. I may do it section by section, because the book is divided into several sections. That may be the best way ultimately to do it, but I'm going to find a way to talk about it. Maybe even I just read the whole damn book and sort of do an encapsulation in one video. I don't know. But then after that, I'm thinking someday I may start a new playlist, but it'll be all Cthulhu Mythos stories by other authors. I think I would begin with the Lovecraft inner circle, his friends, the people who were his contemporaries, who wrote in the Cthulhu Mythos. I think I would tackle those stories first, and then work my way forward through time to the more modern authors. That's a project that would never have an end, because there are literally thousands of Lovecraft or Cthulhu Mythos stories and novels out there, and so it would be probably difficult, nigh on impossible, to do them all and to even locate them all. But that is something that I may very well begin to tackle in a few years' time. In the meantime, it's going to be on to something else. I don't know what that is. I do want to redesign my news show a little bit. keep building that out. I've neglected that. I was very excited about it earlier in the year, but I sort of put it on the back burner a bit to do Lovecraft. So I'm going to get back to that, and then I have some ideas for some material, some videos that are more scripted, sort of semi-scripted, videos that would require a little bit of research to do, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Those would be largely voiceover, I think. But I'm very interested in continuing to expand and evolve the way that we do things around here at Let's Talk. But yeah, that is it. The end of Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft for now. So until next time, keep it creepy.